What's going on, everyone? Take Three podcast back here again Tuesday night, fresh off a wild card weekend. Pretty typical result last night. We did both go Bucks, but I mean, we both said 70% chance the Cowboys should win that game. I mean, it was a prototypical game. Dak looked good, I'll be honest. He looked good, shaky. First two drives weren't pretty, but he found a way to fight through it. And the Bucks, they just looked abysmal. I mean, I knew the game was a wrap once Tom Brady threw the pick in the red zone at like the 3 yard line. I was like, yep, this shit's done. A bunch of pump fakes. I don't know, man. They were just bad, right? That's the Bucks team that we've seen all year. Yeah, we kind of bought into it just because we thought stupid ass Mike McCarthy would find a way to shit the bed. But I mean, they came out fire and they overwhelmed the Bucks, took care of business. Good win, Dallas. But I mean, overall, coming off a wild card weekend, I'll be honest, a lot of matchups I wasn't excited about. I was excited, obviously, for the Saturday night, which we'll get into, Jags and the Chargers. But other games kind of surprised, right? I mean, when you had Buffalo and Miami was closer than we ever really anticipated. We kind of thought Josh Allen could do some dumb shit to make it closer, but I didn't. I don't think if you tell me Skylar Thompson is 18 of 45 on the day, they lose by 3 points on the road at Buffalo. That's kind of wild. Giants also found a way to get it done. We'll dive into that. Cincinnati survives. They really didn't look that great, right? Huntley, I mean, if they don't do one stupid thing jumping over the line, only guys that are 6'4" and above at quarterback should be doing the jump over the line. Huntley's not one of those dudes. Gets it swatted out and they lose. Tough luck, but I mean, what do you make a wild card weekend? And yeah, I mean, we can get straight into last night's game. What did you think about Bucks Cowboys, and talk about these other ones before we dive into kind of the real good ones from this weekend?
Yeah, Wildcard Weekend was fun. I don't think anything too crazy happened outside of that Jags Chargers matchup. It was pretty much kind of what we expected. No one was surprised at all that the 9-win Giants beat the 12-win Vikings. I don't think anyone was surprised at all. A lot of people picked them to upset, but overall fun weekend of football, setting up a great divisional round, which we'll get into. But yeah, the Cowboys game, it's pretty much went as expected, honestly. Like, I know we both picked Bucks and we were leaning towards Bucks, and we're biased. We're hoping the Cowboys lose, but like, what happened was what was supposed to happen. Like, if you watch this Tampa Bay Bucks team all year, they were not good all year. Ryan Jensen, the center, made his debut for that wild card game. They could have really used him this season. They just had no continuity, no rhythm offensively, no run game at all. And it all showed up on Wild Card Weekend, you know. Honestly, I think people got a little bit of faith in them simply because the Panthers had broken coverages against Mike Evans. But outside of that, the Bucks were bad this year, and they showed why they were bad on Wild Card Weekend. And the Cowboys did exactly what they were supposed to do. But, you know, it was a perfect matchup of where you got Tom Brady still. You got a Cowboys team that's notorious for doing stupid things. So, you know, we kind of felt like maybe the Bucks would pull it out, but honestly, not surprising. That's the result that should have happened based on like which team is better. Dallas is a much better team than Tampa Bay this year.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's yeah, 66 throws out of Tom Brady. I mean, the Bucks, they had no run game all year. Leonard Fournette runs like he has cement in his shoes. Rashad White couldn't really get anything going. The O-line's not there. I mean, when you got a 45-year-old guy and Tom Brady, as good as he's been in his entire career, have to drop back and throw 66 times against the Dallas Cowboys pass rush, which is good at rushing the passer. Their secondary is a little leaky, but I mean, their specialty is getting after the quarterback against the weak O-line. They did the job. As I said, Dak looked good. He played pretty much a flawless game outside of the opening two drives with 4 touchdowns and throwing and one on the ground. Tony Pollard looked explosive. They took him off the field at times. I thought were some bad decisions. I mean, he's clearly a game changer, has been all year, and you can really tell the difference when he's back there or running. But I mean, the big question is this it for Tom Brady? Everybody's like making a huge deal of what he said at the podium. I personally don't think he's done that. Sounded like a farewell to the Tampa Bay crowd, the Tampa Bay media, and all those guys. I think he's for sure done in Tampa. Byron Leftwich also got fired. I don't think it's official, but he was on his way out. I saw this afternoon. But yeah, what do you make of Tom Brady? What do you think his future is looking like? It's weird how he always negotiates these deals. When he left the Patriots, he left them with a fat dead cap hit, and when he's about to leave the Bucks, he's leaving them with a fat $35 million dead cap hit. His agent, I don't know, man. They're assholes. But where does Tom Brady go after this one?
Yeah, the Tom Brady thing is interesting because I'm assuming he's going to play another year. I think after his this bad season and the family issues he had all year and everything else going on, it was very uncharacteristic for Tom Brady. I don't think this is how he wants to end his career. I think he's playing again. I don't think it's for the Bucks. I definitely think he's run his course with the Bucks. You know, you got a Super Bowl win, a divisional round loss, and a wild card loss. It kind of just the wheels slowly fell off year after year. But they did get a Super Bowl out of it, so it was a good 3-year run, a good 3-year stretch for Tom and Tampa Bay. But like the options are interesting. Las Vegas is on the board. board with Josh McDaniels. People are still talking about Miami possibly, maybe somehow combines with Sean Payton somewhere. There's just a lot of rumors everywhere. Realistic ones that I think could happen would be Miami and the Raiders, but like I have a hard time guessing what's actually going to happen there. I think if you are Tom, you choose the Raiders, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. You have a pretty damn good team there. They showed signs of life at certain moments this season, and at certain moments they had terrible, terrible collapses. I would imagine would not happen if Tom Brady was their quarterback. So the Raiders have a lot of potential. Obviously, you're in a division with Mahomes. But I mean, if you were to go to Miami, you're in a division with Josh Allen. You get to play the lovely Patriots twice a year. I don't know if that's enticing to Tom at all, but like I have a hard time figuring out where he's going to go. But there's some intriguing options on the board.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about Tom Brady, he's going to be 40, 46 next year. I don't know how much he wants to play in cold weather, right? As much as the Jets would be enticing, or maybe I don't really think the reunion thing in New England kind of got blown up, but maybe the Jets, right? You got that defense, but it's like, how much does he want to really play in the cold in the Northeast in November, December, January, right? I don't think he wants to. I think the clear alignment, I've heard Miami wants to roll out Tua again. I don't know. They're going to try that experiment again, but yeah, I think it all aligns for him to go to the Raiders, right? The division not ideal when you got to play Mahomes twice, Herbert twice, and then you have Denver with Russell Wilson. You imagine if they bring in Sean Payton, which seems like they're on the fast track to do that, they should be better than they were with Hackett by far. It's not a great division, but he gets he gets the indoor conditions right. He doesn't have to be out there. It's a dome out there. He gets Devontae Adams. He gets Darren Waller. You assume he would tell them you got to bring back Josh Jacobs, so I have a running back and a run game because that's essential for him now. And then they just really have to look at how to shore up the defense through the draft, right? The defense has to get better. Chandler Jones, I mean, they still have Chandler Jones. They got to get more production out of him. Max Crosby's a beast. They got to get that secondary a little bit shored up. But I think that's the best option when you look at it. I mean, Miami, if it's realistic, that'd be perfect to get him with Waddle and Tyreek, and then you just got to find a way to beat Josh Allen. But I don't think the Jets, I don't think any of those cold weather cities are really ideal. I think it's really getting back with Josh McDaniels. He knows McDaniels' offense. McDaniels knows him, and that's the fit to me. I don't think it's Tampa Bay again, as you said. I think he's ran his course in Tampa. So I mean, and I don't think he's done. So I think it is the Raiders. Like if I had to, I'd say 90% Raiders. If I had to bet if he was going to play football next year.
I do think you're onto something with the weather thing, though. Like, I think Tom 100% does not want to be in the cold. After spending so many years in New England, that was part of the allure of Southern Florida and Tampa Bay. So I do think you're spot on when it comes to the weather thing.
For sure. Let's jump in AFC. Bills, Dolphins. What'd you make of that? I mean, Skylar Thompson, as I said off the rip, if you see him go 18 of 45 for 220, a touchdown and 2 picks, what do you think? Do you think the game's like 40-6, right? Like it's an absolute flooding. It was trending on that, honestly. I mean, the Bills got off to a hell of a start, and then Josh Allen, I don't know, he gets a look in his face and he starts doing dumb shit. He throws 2 picks. He has a fumble, and they just kind of left the Dolphins around. Honestly, if the Dolphins catch 2 deep balls early, there was one where Jalen Waddle dropped on the first drive for the Dolphins, which he probably should have caught. He jumped for no reason. If you just keep running and catch the football, Tyreek dropped an easy one, and then Waddle dropped another pass deep one towards the middle of the game as well. So, I mean, what do you make of the Dolphins keeping it close with Skylar Thompson? And are you worried about the Buffalo Bills, right? They go into a matchup next week, which we'll cover at some point in another episode where they're going to play the Bengals. Are you worried about Josh Allen's turnovers heading into a Bengals game and then potentially a Chiefs game, right? We assume the Chiefs, they will take care of business against the Jags. But going forward, yeah, are you worried about the Bills, and were you surprised the Dolphins could keep it that close?
Yeah, credit to the Miami Dolphins. I mean, and Mike McDaniel and that coaching staff, because for them to have a close outcome in this scenario is pretty damn impressive. I mean, Skylar Thompson was their starting quarterback. Like you said, you already read out the numbers. Like it was trending towards a Buffalo blowout. I think everyone thought it was. Vegas had the spread at 13.5, 14 points, 2 touchdowns for an NFL playoff game. That's quite insane, to be honest. And shout out to Miami. They kept it close. They had a real chance down the stretch too. Like it took a 4th down stop on the last drive just for Buffalo to seal it. I think Buffalo, this is one of those games where they played really bad. They made a lot of mistakes and they squeaked it out. It could be a confidence building one where like, okay, we got our bad game behind us. Let's build on it and move forward. But I am nervous about Buffalo, and more specifically just Josh Allen. I think the rest of the team will be ready to go, but it's all about like, can you protect the football? Like you cannot give better teams that many opportunities. He's lucky Skylar Thompson was the quarterback on the other side. I think if he turns the ball over and has that game against Tua, I think Miami probably squeaks out that win. You just cannot turn the ball over that much. And it is concerning considering Josh Allen's career historically. He has roller coaster performances. He's elite one week, and then he's average turning the ball over the next week. The one outlier year was with Brian Dable, and now he's in New York, and we saw what he did. He had Daniel Jones looking really, really good, clean football again, no turnovers, and I still think the Bills missed that. Like if Brian Dable was able to reel back Josh Allen and make him play much cleaner football, and I think that's been very missed for Buffalo. Buffalo clearly has all the talent in the world and they get it done, but like moving forward, I'm definitely worried about Buffalo and those turnovers. Like now is not the time to be being sloppy with the football offensively. You cannot afford to give other teams more possessions.
Yeah, you're relying on the defense too much. It might work against the Bengals team where when we were watching the Bengals O-line kind of drop like flies out there. So like the pass rush could absolutely abuse it. But yeah, I mean, Josh Allen has to play cleaner football, 14 interceptions in the regular season, right? He's quite the turnover machine, and the fumbles too, right? He's trying to do too much. Not a lot of Devin Singletary out there, only 10 carries, 48 yards. And then I think for the Dolphins heading into the offseason, they got to find a running back, right? Like Jeff Wilson isn't the guy, Raheem Mostert obviously isn't the guy. They got to find something because that really sets up the whole offense for them, as well as the quarterback staying healthy. But I mean, that's kind of they're rolling a dice on Tua if they're rolling back with him. But they got to find a legitimate running back in that backfield, because outside of like one Jeff Wilson game, like they really didn't have any consistent production. It was really just home runs with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle all year for them. Moving on. I mean, what do you think? We'll go back NFC style, just quickly, honestly. San Francisco Seahawks, it looked like the Seahawks could potentially pull an upset, right? 17-16 at half. And then it was kind of like one of those things. The better team took over in the second half. You watched an absolute beatdown take over in the second half, finished 41-23. 49ers get the job done. I did say going out, this would be the one big spread game that I would take. I think it was 9.5 it closed at. And I said I would roll with the Niners just because I thought the talent on the field. I was going to look like a moron, right? At halftime, the Geno Smith and those guys kept it close. Credit to DK Metcalf. He had a day, right? 10 catches, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, beat up on that secondary. But after all, the 49ers better football team took care of business. Are you buying into the Brock Purdy? It seems like the bettors are right there now. I believe the favorite to win the NFC rolling off of this game with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, to credit Seattle real quick, Pete Carroll had that team ready to play. I thought they played a really good first half. They were super competitive, but like the Niners just did what they do. The Niners are a much better football team in every facet, and it just got away from them. But I think the Seahawks played a hell of a game, honestly, especially in the first half. But like I am buying Brock Purdy in San Francisco. It's wild because Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, but like it reminds me, I'm sure a lot of people think this of like Tom Brady's beginning of his career because he was a late draft pick, got in, it doesn't cost the team a lot of money. You get good quarterback play, and all of a sudden the roster around you super stacked, just like the Niners. This Niners team is ridiculously stacked. But at the end of the day, Brock Purdy's still inexperienced. I think he's going to make some mistakes if they make the conference championship or a Super Bowl. Like I think in the biggest moments, there's going to be a mistake or two. We haven't seen it yet. We still haven't. And I mean, even I think the closest matchup, there was an overtime win with the Raiders. They played them really, really well, but like Brock Purdy performed really, really well in that too. And like, I think we're at the point where like Brock Purdy is going to do what he does, but I still think the inexperience is going to show at some point, and he's going to make a costly mistake for the Niners. And I'm a little bit biased because I still think the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC. I'm still riding with them slightly above the Niners, but like the Niners are a juggernaut. They're very scary. The matchup against the Cowboys is going to be real interesting, but I am buying the Brock Purdy hype train. And think about it. If you're the Niners, like you'll move off Jimmy, obviously, but then you're left with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, 2 young quarterbacks, 2, rookie contracts. You don't have to pay him very much. You can keep this roster intact. So the Niners, especially if they figure out a way to win the championship this year, they could be really building something special. But I buy Brock Purdy. I buy all the hype, but I'm not sold on them winning the NFC. That's my one. That's where I hesitate.
Yeah, it feels like a classic better's overreaction. Yeah, but I mean, Brock Purdy, he's done his thing with the roster around him, right? Taking care of business. I don't know. They feel kind of, what is it, like 2017 Vikings-esque, where they're winning all these home games, winning the home playoff games, and then they get if we take care of business next week and they take care of business, you send a similar guy, inexperienced, similar to Case Keenum, with a lot of weapons around him and a defense that's balling out into the Philadelphia environment, and we'll figure it out. But the Niners look good. I think it's really becoming clear to me that almost anybody can play in that scheme at quarterback. I mean, we've seen Jimmy G do it. We saw Trey Lance for a glimpse do it. And now we're seeing Brock Purdy have success in it. So it seems like anybody can play quarterback, and it gets more and more intriguing the farther they go. Is like, what do you do? Are you just going to pawn off? Are you going to try to pawn off Brock Purdy to a team in the offseason? Are you going to keep him around? It gets dicey with Trey Lance, right? What do you do with him heading into next year? Obviously, he has more tools and everything, but you have a guy who's running your scheme flawlessly and can potentially take you into a Super Bowl. It's like, do you just bounce off of him right at a whim right after the season?
I think if Brock Purdy's as well as he's playing, like if even if they lose conference championship or Super Bowl, like I'm riding with Brock Purdy to start the season next year. I would assume Trey Lance is ready to go since he got hurt at the beginning of the year this year. But like, I know you invested a ton of draft capital, but I mean, hey, they're both rookie contracts, and if you can keep a phenomenal roster around and Brock Purdy's playing that well, like personally, I think you got to ride with Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, it comes into a big front office decision at the end of the day for them, right? Because it's like, is Trey Lance going to want to come back, be the number 3 pick, and just sit there and watch the last pick in the 7th round, the Mr. Irrelevant play quarterback over him? Is he really going to want to do that? He could pretty much say, screw you guys, I want out, right? That's fine. You guys can roll with Purdy. So it becomes fascinating because almost anybody has had success in that scheme at quarterback. And yeah, we'll see what happens going into the divisional round, right? They got a big one coming up with Dallas. That should be a good game. We'll see how he handles that pass rush. They have all the weapons, but I mean, do we really want to dive in real quick to Cincinnati and Baltimore? I'll give you one thing: if Lamar's out there, did the Baltimore Ravens win?
Yes, I think they do. If the game plays out how it played, I mean, I Lamar's not reaching over and having the ball swatted out at like the goal line. You know, it was 17-17 when that happened. Obviously, that was the game-winning touchdown, and then no other points were scored. There's basically the whole fourth quarter still. But that's what really threw me for a loop. I really thought after that Cincinnati was going to like score one more time and like really give it to them and show like they are better. But like Cincinnati escaped, and their offensive line got more beat up. We'll get into that Bills matchup during the preview episode. I'm nervous about both sides, honestly. But like it was, I mean, if you're Cincinnati, I guess you can kind of write it off. It's like, well, the Baltimore Ravens are still a damn good football team with a damn good defensive unit, and it's an AFC North divisional round. They showdown. They know you well, you know, but like that was not a confidence building win for the Bengals, in my opinion.
No, I wasn't impressed. And with the O-line dropping, Jonah Williams dislocated kneecap. He's likely not playing in the Buffalo game. You already lost Lyle Collins a couple weeks back. That I mean, they showed it in the graphic on Sunday night where the first 15 games of the year, the O-line was completely fine, and then they've lost guys over the course of like the past couple weeks. So they're rolling in a lot of backups, right? It was last year. It was the issue was the O-line. We saw it ultimately cost them in the Super Bowl, and then Joe Burrow's rookie year as well, right? The O-line as well was a issue with an injury. So I mean, yeah, I was not impressed with the Bengals. I thought they would really come out right. Everybody can say the third time thing. That's a big thing going with the Eagles playing the Giants. It's hard to beat the team 3 times. I just think, I mean, they didn't seem that prepared. I don't know. I mean, I guess, yeah, you can say it's an AFC North game, but I thought that team at home would be revved up, right? Especially what happened in their last home game, big time primetime game in the Buffalo. With that situation, I thought they'd be revved up, ready to go. Joe Mixon again, only 11 carries, 39 yards. I don't know. Zach Taylor seems to still hate him. I did like their adjustment on the quick 3-step drops, right? Once they saw the O-line was banged up and not able to protect, they didn't keep doing the long drop back plays, really rolled with the 3-step drops, and they were eating up the secondary for the Ravens. But yeah, I was not impressed with the Bengals at all. And I'm concerned for them going forward. That O-line, when you're playing these better teams, is you can't keep skating by, right? Just rolling on Joe Burrow's arm every single week. The deeper you go. It worked last year, but I mean, how many times in that AFC with these quarterbacks, like with the Allens and with the Mahomes, how many times are you going to be able to do that? Like,
yeah, and at the same time, I feel like Cincinnati's riding hot. I mean, from like the last year's playoffs to now, like the turnovers keep going their way. It's like everything is kind of bouncing their way right now. Don't get me wrong, I like this team a lot. I picked them at the beginning of the year. They're very talented, but like I don't know how long that really lasts. Like at some point, like it flips and goes the other way.
For sure. They got a huge one. That fumble was, yeah, I couldn't, I was amazed when I watched that happen. I was like, I cannot believe. And yeah, it really wasn't even close. When they reviewed it, I was like, yeah, he's not even close. I can't believe they did a jump over the line. That's a Daniel Jones or Trevor Lawrence move, like, or maybe even a Josh Allen. But like, I don't know why Snoop Huntley is jumping over the line.
That was a bad play call on John Harbaugh and that coaching staff. Like he knows Lamar is not there. That was a Lamar play. Like don't do that with Huntley.
Yeah, you could easily just sneak his ass under, like you've seen every other team do it with relative success all year, and they decide not to. But let's move into the big ones, the really talking points of the weekend. If it lets me flip over here, here we go. We watched the Chargers Saturday night do what they do. I mean, I'm sitting there at halftime. I'm saying it's 27-0. I believe I texted you and said we really back these guys. Like we really rolled with the Jags. They're laying an egg. Trevor Lawrence, he thinks Asante Samuel Jr. is on his team. He keeps throwing interceptions to him. They're abysmal, right? I rolled with Doug Peterson. I said he's got the playoff experience. He's won a Super Bowl. He'll have his guys prepared, and they didn't look prepared at all. Trevor Lawrence looked shaky as hell. And then the second half hits, and the Chargers forget how to play football. I mean, I don't know, the play calling wasn't there. They really kind of played like not to lose, I'd say. It was very odd behavior out of them. What do you make of the Jags comeback and the Chargers blowing it?
Yeah, this was the highlight of my weekend. I went in with strong conviction of Jags plus 2.5 and Jags money line. I was pretty sick by halfway through the second quarter because they looked beyond dead. It was atrocious. I mean, you go out there and you turn the ball over four interceptions, and then they muff a punt, which leads to all Chargers points, 27-0. But like, man, credit to them for fighting and bouncing back. And like, what a terrible collapse if you're the Chargers. You have your leader, your defensive leader in Bosa getting a critical penalty that then made the Jags go for 2 instead of 1. That was a really big deal. You just have the offense just kind of falling apart. Like what was that play calling? They lost all aggression. And the wild part is the Chargers went up 27-0. After that, the Jags had 5 possessions. What did they do? They went touchdown, 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 game-winning field goal. There wasn't a single turnover by the Chargers either in that span. They did give up like a 40-yard Zay Jones touchdown as well. That was a quick score. And then there were some 3 and outs, and it's just all around from the Chargers, from their defense to their offense. Just I don't know what the hell happened. They were celebrating obviously when they went up 27-0, acting like the game was over, as you should. I mean, that's a huge lead, but like you still got to go out there and play. And like that was a pretty bad collapse. It just makes me question Brandon Staley more. I feel like he's getting away from what he like really wants to do from like the analytics last year and everything. And then he's getting conservative in big moments. And like Mr. Consistent and Doug Peterson, he's never conservative in big moments. We saw it with the Eagles in the playoffs. We saw it with the Jags. He had some big 4th downs. He went for 2. Like he went for it. And that's what I expect out of Brandon Staley. I feel like they got a big lead and then shriveled down. And then when it really mattered most and they had to perform again after it got close, they couldn't rise to the moment. And it was a pretty bad collapse for the Chargers. Pretty damn impressive win for the Jags.
Oh, it was just embarrassing. I mean, you tell me a team wins they're +5 on the turnovers, and they lose. They ended up losing the game. I'd be like, that's insane, and that's exactly what happened. I don't know. After it went 27-7, when the Jags scored a touchdown right before half, I posted in a Discord. I was like, we're about to watch the Chargers Charger. Like they're gonna find a way to like do some stupid shit. And then they come out of the second half. I'll go through their drives. The first drive, 7 plays, 37 yards, 2 minutes 30 seconds. Then they had another drive, 7 plays, 45 yards, 2 minutes. 14 plays, 58 yards, 6 minutes, 57 seconds. And then their final drive was 3 plays, 5 yards, 2 minutes. The inability to even run clock, similar to what the Colts did when they blew the game against the Vikings late in the year, when they couldn't even just run the ball 3 times and chew up 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. That's really all you have to do when you're up that big, right? Find a way. You have Austin Eckler in the backfield. You can even use Justin Herbert, seemed healthy. His legs were rolling. Just find a way to run the football. I don't know. I don't get the play calling. It was bad. It's a horrible stain on Brandon Staley. Everybody's going in on him anyway before this, and then they find a way to do this. It looks like he's going to keep his job. I mean, I imagine he would have been canned by now. Today's Tuesday. Yeah, I mean, they would have waited till after the wild card game yesterday to not overshadow that. They'd probably move on, which leads me to believe that their number one guy, they'd probably want Sean Payton. He's probably off the board, right? And as you mentioned before this, when we were talking, before we started recording, that the Chargers are cheap ownership. They probably don't want to pay a fat contract or even give up a draft pick to go get a Sean Payton, right? It's going to cost the Broncos a draft pick to trade for Sean Payne, which is hilarious, trading for a head coach. But yeah, they're not going to do that. So it looks like they're just going to do a bunch of coordinator swaps. They got rid of the offensive coordinator already. He'll take some blame, and Brandon Staley will get a run back. But it just seems like the Chargers, they're wasting Justin Herbert's rookie deal. It feels like that, right? The weapons, they maybe need to go out and draft a wide receiver. I don't know, the Mike Williams thing. Ultimately, like, people keep bringing that up. That's stupid to get him hurt in a meaningless game, but that didn't cost them the game, right? It was just very, very. They played not to lose when they got up so big, and you could really just feel the pendulum start to swing big time in the second half. You're like, oh, this is really about to happen. And credit to Trevor Lawrence, right? He could have mailed it in, right? You throw 4 interceptions in the first half, you could just say, fuck it, the game's over. Like, we lost. Like, I came out and played like shit. I'll stand at the podium and say that. But he came out in the second half, battled. So I mean, that's credit to him, right? He really he's a stud, I gotta say. Like, to turn that around and find a way to win a game against a good football team like that after being down that much is a huge credit to him and Doug and that entire Jags team. But yeah, big stain on the Chargers, and they got to figure it out, man. They can't waste Justin Herbert's entire rookie deal and really get nothing out of it, right? Or all they're gonna get is a wild card weekend loss out of his rookie deal. Like, this is a big season. This one was a big season for the Chargers. We sat up here and said, could they win the Super Bowl? This next one coming up is huge, right? Because then it's the Herbert extension comes in, and then you're not able to go out and get Khalil Max of the world and players like that. So yeah, it's a big offseason for the Chargers to see who they get in to call plays, and really you got to kind of rebuild the locker room when you lose a game like this in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? This Chargers team had so much talent, and yeah, they got beat up throughout the year, but then they got healthy. Then obviously the Mike Williams thing happened, and I forget which player said it, but one of them went public and was like, "Yeah, that was extremely demoralizing for the team." And it all boils down to me, like, outside of the health for players, it's just like Brandon Staley making questionable decisions, and like, it's very Chargers-esque, right? I know that sounds silly, but like, if you look at the history of this Chargers franchise, like, they are filled with like poor decisions, and it just seems to be going down that way, and it just sucks because Herbert's really, really good, and I would love to see them like be elite because they clearly have the ability to, and they just keep coming up short.
Yep, I mean, they got to figure it out. If you're gonna roll out talking Brandon Staley again and not get rid of him, you gotta make some changes. You gotta get some legit play callers, and you gotta find a way to maximize that final year of Herbert's rookie deal, or you've really wasted it for sure. Let's move on to another team that really wasted it. The most overrated 13-win football team I've seen, the Kirk Cousins led Vikings, right? I mean, this was just one of those where I can't believe we sat up here and said this is going to be the one where they find a way to lose, and we kind of rolled with them just because they're 13 wins, just because they're at home, right? We didn't think they would look like dog shit that many times in a row, but they find a way to do it. They lose 31-24. Big credit to Daniel Jones. I got to tip my cap. He played good, man. He used the legs well. Dable had a good game plan. He used his legs well, and even had a clean, efficient game, passing 24-35, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. I liked what I saw to Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley found the end zone twice, and Isaiah Hodgins, every time I turned around, was making another catch. He had 8 catches, a $105, and a touchdown. So I mean, they looked good, and it looked once again a Kirk Cousins led team. I can't believe they could only find a way to get Justin Jefferson 7 catches, 47 yards, and no touchdowns. Right, he came an inch away from a touchdown early in the game, but they just really, I don't know. What do you make of the last play too? Right, it was like 4th and 8, and they throw the ball 4 yards into the flats. I was laughing. I was like, dude, they threw that.
Coward pass.
Yeah, I was like, that's the play, man. I guess you're going to go out and say you got a completion. You went 31-39. But yeah, another Kirk Cousins failure. We kind of expected it. What do you make of the Vikings going out? And are you impressed with the Giants? I mean, Daniel Jones is kind of playing himself into probably getting some type of contract extension, maybe 3 years, 60 million, 4 years, 80 million. Like, I think that's fair for them. They've played themselves out of getting like a good rookie quarterback. Obviously, they're now in the divisional round, but he's kind of played himself in a guy with Brian Dable.
Yeah, I got to give the New York Giants a lot of credit. Like, they won a playoff game. They're in the divisional round. I was a hater on this team all year. And to be fair, they started the first 8 weeks, they started really hot, and then they slowed down after that quite a bit. But I mean, I just got to give the New York Giants a lot of credit. That was a pretty impressive win. They were doing whatever they wanted offensively. They could not be stopped. And like, kudos to Daniel Jones because he did not look like a serviceable quarterback at the beginning of his career. Joe Judge and that coaching staff was so atrocious. So it's like a lot of credit to this New York Giants team this year. Like hell of a season so far. And then that brings me to the Vikings. Like Kirk Cousins is who we think he is, right? Like he can go out and throw for 300 plus when it's noon on a Sunday in like week 6. But like when it really matters, he just kind of he doesn't step up. He kind of plays scared a little bit. He never seems to really make the big play when it matters most. And that's just kind of the history of his career. The Vikings had a really good season offensively, and then their defense was atrocious, and they could not stop this New York Giants squad. And even though I just gave them a ton of credit and they performed extremely well, I don't think the New York Giants are like a juggernaut offensively like the Niners are, like the Chiefs have been. So it's like I just don't know what you do moving forward if you're the Vikings. You had a 13-win season. Green Bay was in disarray. Detroit was in disarray for the first half of the year. They really got it going in the second half. And like, can that offense play any better? I mean, than the wild card game, sure, but like as a season, like the offense did what they were supposed to do. The defense was atrocious, and like even if you improve the defense, like I don't think Kirk Cousins has a high enough ceiling to really, go to a conference championship, go to a Super Bowl, win a championship, which is obviously the goals. I don't know. You're in a weird spot if you're Minnesota, right? Obviously, you run it back with Kirk Cousins, but it's just he is who we think he is, and like I think when it matters most, he's not going to be able to perform. So it's like the Giants kind of feel like stuck in purgatory to me. Like they're going to be a good team, but never be a great team.
Yep.
Or the Vikings, excuse me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they have they have an interesting offseason as well, right? Are they going to win 13 ball games next year? They with a harder schedule, obviously a first place schedule. We don't know. Yeah, I mean you hit all the key points. Kirk Cousins is exactly what we expected. Will he even be as good as he was this year? Next year, who knows? I mean they're kind of cap strapped and they're rolling with him again. I looked, he carries like a $48 million dead hit if they were to get rid of him. So they're probably running it back with him. But yeah, they got to find a way. Yeah, I mean I would just say find a way to get Justin Jefferson the football, right? Like that's the clear cut number one, the numero uno on the field on both sides, right? The best wide receiver in that stadium. And for him only to get 9 targets, 7 catches, 47. I think the second half was only like 1 catch for 4 yards. It was super. All his production was in the first half. For you not to be able to get him the football in the second half of a game where you're especially trailing, right? The last drive, it's concerning. It's bad. But yeah, I would say the Vikings, this is like the Vikings ceiling with Kirk Cousins, right? Wild card round, divisional round maybe, but they're not I don't think they're getting to a conference championship. Sure as hell he's not seeing the Super Bowl at all. And then yeah, I mean credit to Daniel Jones, credit to Brian Dable, coach of the year, I would say for sure, to carry this team and really scheme. And if they can get Daniel Jones on the right deal, right, and keep him on the right price tag, you can add some wide receivers out there and really create a system. They're building a culture, which is scary because they're in our division and they're going to be annoying as hell. But I mean, if you can continue to keep Daniel Jones playing like that every week, then you got a good chance to win a lot of football games if you build the right core around him. I like what Dable's done in year one with Daniel Jones and that entire team.
Yeah, and I was so convinced that Daniel Jones deserved to be in the league, but was not like a franchise quarterback. And like I think he's 26 years old, 25 years old, and now he's really starting to hit his stride. It's like he might be a franchise quarterback. He showed a lot last weekend.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm willing to call him that. He's like a solid, like he's good enough. I mean, if you have the right coach, obviously, if you have a Brian Dable who's a hell of a football coach, like if you have a guy in the building like that with him, I think it's perfect. It's kind of like a Kyle Shanahan situation. Like it seems like almost now the any quarterback can be good in Brian Dable's offense. We'd have to see with another quarterback. They'll find a way to keep Daniel Jones around. But I don't even know because like if I'm talking franchise quarterback, I'm saying he's going to be the guy there for the next decade, right? It's like I don't know. I mean, I could easily, he'll be around there, I'd say, for the next 2, 3, 4 years, maybe, but then reevaluate it after, because I don't know how high their ceiling is, right? I mean, you're banking on him playing like that every single week, and it's like, is he going to play like that? He threw 15 touchdowns in the regular season, so I mean, he's done good enough, but it's like, is he going to do that? Is he going to do that, what he did this weekend every week? Probably not.
Honestly, you're talking about ceiling. It kind of feels like they're hitting their ceiling this year. Like that, the impressive wild card win, divisional round appearance. Like I, as someone that was a hater of this Giants team and didn't really believe in them, like I don't know if the talent is there to take a next step past this, but like it's been very, very impressive this year.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Daniel Jones fleeces them on the contract, right? Hopefully they don't get a good team-friendly deal. Hopefully he asks for a big 150 and absolutely screws them cap-wise. Because if he takes a team-friendly deal and they're able to keep adding to the defense, keep adding to the offense, they could be a problem with the way Brian Dable has them coached up. That's really it. Moving on. Here's what our picks were for Wild Card Weekend. We obviously we went 4-2. We picked exactly the same. Got suckered into the Bucks. Yeah, and then I'd say the Vikings. I don't think the Vikings is a bad pick. Like they're the better team at home. They should have took care of business. The Bucks is probably a reach because we're both biased assholes and hate the Cowboys that bad.
Yep.
But I'll take 4-2. I'll take the Jags one, especially since they're down 27-0. That could easily been another red and it would have been 3-3 on the weekend. But yeah, I mean, I think Wild Card Weekend it was super fun, as I said at the beginning of this whole thing. A lot of games that I really wasn't interested in. Buffalo, Miami, I sure as hell wasn't interested in. The Cincinnati, Baltimore game, I really wasn't that much interested in to tune into, and they turned out to be fun ball games. Everything outside of like Monday night and the first game Saturday that was a wash after the second half. But Wild Card Weekend, I'd say was a success. It was a lot of fun coming out of this weekend, and I'm super pumped for the Final Four. Right, we get to the divisional round heading into this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Good wild card weekend, 4-2. And if you made me pick two that we're going to lose, I'm not surprised at all. It was the Vikings and Bucks. Kind of expected, honestly.
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah. That's what you get when we're assholes. We should have just rolled the Cowboys. I even said it 70-30, but then I suckered myself into Tom Brady. 66 throws, Tom Brady with no O-line and no run game. And kind of a defense that just got put out there too much, and they didn't even really look that great. They sat in zone all night. I don't know. Todd Bowles is not a good head coach either. I'll end with that. Like
I don't think he is.
yeah, like I think Todd Bowles is fired after he'll coach next year, but I think he's fired after next year. Like he's not Byron Leftwich is becoming the scapegoat this year. Todd Bowles will be gone after next year.
Todd Bowles is a good coordinator. I want him on my coaching staff. I don't want him as a head coach.
Exactly. You want them scheming up your defense. But that's going to be a wrap for this wild card recap. Super fun weekend. Looking forward to the divisional round. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Drop any feedback in the description or add us on Twitter. Spotify link will be posted in the description if you're a audio only person. And yeah, we'll be back to preview the divisional round, probably give our picks, which will curse some teams. And yeah, talk about these final games. It looks fun heading into this weekend's action.